Next, we have Mr. Harit Talwar in conversation with Anuranjita. Harit is Global Head of the Consumer Business at Goldman Sachs. He's a member of the firm WiT Client at Business Standards Committee and Partnership Committee. Harit joined Goldman Sachs in 2015 as a partner. Prior to joining the firm, he was president of US Cards for Discover Financial Services, as well as Chief Marketing Officer and a member of Discover's Executive Committee.
Thank you, Harit, for joining us today. I think this is a really special keynote because for me, this takes me back, decades back to when I started my career with Citi. And I remember like this junior person in the corridors looking at this inspirational leader who was instrumental in building the consumer business to a large extent for Citi in India. So thank you again for being here. As I said, this is a real trip down the memory lane for us. As you're aware, the kind of message of this conference is how do you ideate, innovate, and inspire? And I think there are these 3 I's, which in my view really define you. And trying to give any further description in terms of what kind of leader you are would be belittling that. So we're here to talk about, the 3 I's, and I think it'll be wonderful for a lot of people in the audience to get a sense of your career journey, and along the way, how 3 I's might have impacted you.
So first of all, Anu, thank you very much. And that was a very flattering and perhaps undeserved introduction. And I'm delighted to be here because STEM and girls in STEM is a cause which is very critical and not just important to me and my heart, but I think it's critical for our society and its well-being. So thank you for the invitation. Delighted to be here. All that your introduction means is that I've been working for a very long time. I've been in consumer financial services for almost 30 years now. And I'm very proud to say that I started in India. And while I've worked all over the world, I have lived in 6 cities. I have worked in 4 countries, 3 continents, remarkably still married to the same person, despite all those moves. But there's no doubt that my founding educational experiences, work experiences have been being part of the consumer bank, which was set up for Citi in the mid-80s. And I've really been fortunate that I've worked in, serving the emerging middle class after the reforms in India in the mid-80s. I was very fortunate to have worked in Central Europe after the fall of communism, and again, the emerging middle class. And I have worked in the very highly, intensely competitive markets of US and UK and Western Europe. And at one level, these are different experiences because one in emerging markets is about creating markets. And in the Western markets, it's about intense market share capture pressures. But if you go a step deeper, what I have learned is that people are the same. Customers are the same and employees are the same. Everywhere, customers want great value. They want it easy. They want it transparent. They want good customer service. They want to build their lives. They need to buy a car, they need an auto loan, they need to buy a house, they need a mortgage, they need to save for retirement, they need to save for their kids' education. And everywhere employees want the same thing. They want a work environment which is respectful, which brings the best out of them. They want to be paid well. So in my career, across all these geographies and decades, I have learned that the world is more similar rather than different.
That's wonderful. I think that's so beautifully in the way you've communicated that, there's diversity in some bit of consistency. So yeah. I wish we could apply that in different aspects of our life as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I think would be just curious to know, What are you up to now? And, anything which you would like to share with us?
Sure. I'm currently at Goldman Sachs. I'm the global head of the consumer business, which is a new, as we call, a 150-year-old startup. I was the first employee. Before coming here, I was president of cards at Discover. And, I had a business with thousands of people and billions of dollars of revenue and billions of dollars of pre-tax profit. And here I came and joined as the first employee. And our mission here really is to do to financial services what perhaps Amazon did to retail or Apple did to music, which is that make the services available in an easy, simple, transparent, digital fashion, and have the opportunity to extend significantly a 150-year-old brand and franchise. So our mission is to empower millions of consumers to take control over their financial lives. We've been in business for the last 3-4 years. And I think we have done well. We have millions of customers. We have around $90 billion of deposits, $7 billion of cards and loans. We have a partnership with Apple on the credit card side. We have a partnership with Amazon on the small business side. And we are working hard.
Fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. And I think what really struck me is you've had some wonderful experience behind you, but you seem to be an entrepreneurial, in some ways at heart. So first employee, starting all over again, the environment is uncertain and the thrill of just rebuilding. So, given the times that we're in with COVID, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going through this emotion about what next? How do I go about it? So, if, in a way, what do you see in the crystal ball? And what would you advise them if they are looking at a client or a career in this space?
So it's difficult to be, say what is there in the future. And I've always felt that as a business person, I don't predict the future, we navigate the future. But if I look at it, there can be in three sort of buckets: customers, employees, and competitive landscape. And if I look at customers and markets and businesses, I think the real future is extreme, almost insane customer centricity. Technology is important, data is important, design is important, AI is important. But all those are important only because they can help you serve the customer in a better way. Sometimes we make the mistake thinking that the capability is the future.
Right.
No, the future is extreme customer centricity. Because even today, in a survey in the US, 60% of the consumers don't trust their card or bank company.
Right.
More than 70% of the people would rather visit their dentist than visit their branch because the service is so poor. So extreme customer centricity and business models evolving to serve the customer better. If I look at the competitive landscape, at least in financial services, there's always this debate between the large banks and the fintechs and the large technology companies and who is going to win. I don't think it's a case of a category winner, that this category will win and that category will lose. I think you will see coexistence of very successful players from each of those three categories. And it is the ones who are nimble and ones who have customer centricity who will succeed, whether they're a fintech or a bank, and the ones who don't, they won't. And so therefore, and at least in the US, I think that large technology companies will want to distribute financial products and services, but will perhaps not want to become a bank themselves. Right. And that's why at Marcus by Goldman Sachs, we go direct to the consumer, but we also embed our product capabilities inside the ecosystems of some of the largest brands. So our credit card is embedded into the Apple ecosystem. Our seller finance capabilities are embedded into the Amazon ecosystem, for example. And so I think a lot of partnerships, a lot of cohabitation is what the competitive landscape will be. And if I look at employees, I think talent, to use the cliche, is going to become even more critical. Because, hundreds of years ago, when Ricardo was the economist, the competitive advantage was land. And then during the Industrial Revolution, which lasted a century and a half, the competitive advantage was capital. Today, the competitive advantage is talent. And talent is at a premium. And organizations cannot have a view that we give you the job and we are doing you a favor. No, we get the opportunity of your coming into our environment and giving the best of you. And therefore, how you treat talent is going to be a very, very important thing, because there is a war for talent. And that's a good thing for all of us.
Perfect. I think the talent bit obviously resonated with me a lot, apart from the customer centricity, which, I know you're almost obsessive about in a good way. But the talent bit gives me a good segue into another question that I had, which is, we're in a WiT Spark conference. So how does that tie up with diversity and inclusion? And what would be your thoughts around that?
I have sort of three thoughts around this. I'm a brown person. I have worked all over the world. I have spent most of my time in Western Europe and US. And I always tell people, be your authentic self. When I'm in a meeting, most people around me are white. Most of the accents are not my accent. I'm not looking at myself. I'm not hearing myself. I'm seeing others and I'm hearing them. I tend to forget that I'm different. Okay. So my first sort of message over there is be comfortable in your skin. Be comfortable in who you are. Don't try and pretend to be something you are not. The second thing I would say is I've had a journey of evolution personally. I used to think good diversity means ignoring people's gender, religion, race, and looking only at their work and their merit. And I think that is very, very, very important. But that is necessary, not sufficient, is what I have learned. That was my mantra, that that's necessary and sufficient. And now in the last few years, I've realized that you have to go beyond that. It's not that you ignore differences, you recognize and embrace differences. Because those differences bring strong strengths to the team. And you should be having the courage to say, yes, you are different. I want to learn more. I want to have the curiosity. And that'll make me better. That'll make the interaction better. That'll make the team better. So it's not, as you said, diversity is important. Inclusion, diversity and inclusion. Inclusiveness is very important. And the data is very clear. The teams which are more diverse and inclusive always produce better business results because the marketplace is diverse. And they expect that, whether it's a B2B market or a B2C market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with the passion you spoke about embracing diversity, and it's a bit like diversity is being asked to come to a party and inclusion is being asked to dance together. So
yes.
It's lovely in the way you've described it. And given we are bringing the conference to this grand finale keynote, the last question I would have is, in fact, before I ask the last question, when we look at current times, COVID in some ways has been the biggest leveler. It didn't look at who's rich or poor. It didn't look at who's black or white. It didn't look at male, female. In a way, it hit everybody. So it's a real leveler or an equalizer in one way. And, any other lessons which you think we can derive in a constructive way from the COVID crisis, or any career advice which you would, impart to thousands of people who are watching you currently?
On the COVID part, I would say again, and I tend to talk in threes, there are three learnings I've had. One is digitization. I don't think during these crises, there are new trends which emerge. There are trends which exist which get accelerated. And the first trend, which I think is accelerating dramatically, is digitization of every aspect of our lives. I thought I could have said that 5 years ago and it would have been true. But I think it is very, very, it's amazing how much acceleration, whether, in the US, 40% people are doing groceries online. 3 months ago, that number was 10%. 40% of people have used online banking for the first time and don't intend to go back to physical branches. So the acceleration of digitization is very, very strong. I think the second thing is the social ethos of a brand. Of course, when consumers will select which brand they purchase things from, of course, they will look at the value, the price, the service, etc. But they will increasingly look at what is the social personality of the brand. What do you do for your communities? What do you do for your employees? And that is becoming increasingly important. The third thing, which both a learning and a belief, is we do know that this corona, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but we do know it will get over. Maybe it will get worse before it gets over, maybe it won't, but it will get over. So to me, retaining optimism and retaining faith and retaining self-belief and retaining your resilience is very, very important. And that sort of goes into the career advice. My first career advice is don't take your career too seriously. Many people, they're young.
When I met you like 20 years back, that.
If you had asked me, would I predict the turns my career took over the last 30 years? No. So sometimes we can over-manage, and which is not great, because the over-managing makes us rigid in how we want to build our career.
Right.
The second thing is very old-fashioned. You have to do what you have to do. You have to deliver. And you have to be nice with people while you're delivering. You don't want to be the person when he or she enters the room, people say, this person is very bright, but I wish we didn't have to interact with this person. You have to bring positive energy. Just because you're bright or you're hardworking is not enough. That is necessary, not sufficient. And the third is you've got to have resilience. Resilience in the face of ambiguity, resilience in the face of adversity. There is not a single person that I know of whose career has always had ups. There are always ups and downs and waves, and it's like a river which meanders, and you've got to navigate it. And have fun while doing it.
Perfect. I mean, I was kind of processing this in my mind because I haven't had the time to take notes, which I would have loved to. But to sum it up, I think across the four key questions that I've asked you, I think I started with the 3 I's and I'm ending with 3 R's, which is take risk, right? Be resilient and be ready to embrace the future in the right way. So thank you so much, Harit. I think this has been a wonderful conversation. As I said, the inspirational quotient has gone up, at least for me. That's the case with the audience as well. Thank you again for being part of WiT Spark. We hope with leaders like you, we're able to spark a change in the way we embrace the future and keep ourselves resilient in the right way. So thank you
No,
again.
thank you very much for the invitation. And I think the WiT Spark is fantastic. And I love the word spark in it. And my polite, humble advice to all your participants is just make the world a better place.
Thank you so much. Thank you again,
Thank you.
and look forward to staying connected. Take care and have a
Thank you.
bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you, Harit and Anuranjita.